let's do it! Let's freaking do it! We're ready to start, Devin?
Hello!
You ready to teach this game?
I'm ready to teach!
If you're watching this video, brother, I'm gonna rip your nose off and stick it in the rulebook so you learn the best way possible.
That's so aggressive.
Yeah.
It's so aggressive.
Alright, set it up.
Okay. Am I starting the video from scratch?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Today we are learning how to play Veiled Fate. So, I am so excited to do this because we're doing several different pieces of Veiled Fate content today, but we're going to start with how to play. I've set it up for a 2-player count. I think we're going to do it at 3 a little bit later, but you can play this game from 2 to 8. At 2-player and from 6 to 8, there are a little few modifications along the way, but it's pretty much the same concept.
Now, one important note if you're tuning in, Ivy Studios, the producers of this game, actually have an excellent step-by-step hardcore guide to learning how to play this game. This is going to be Quackalope's approach. We take a conversational approach to the game like you're sitting across the table from us, but do make sure you double check the rulebook for player count changes or any little middling questions you have. We want to get you up and running with the core concepts as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Tell me about Veiled Fate.
This is a strategic deduction game. It is hidden in the fact that each of us will have one of these 9 demigods, and the other people don't know who we are.
No
and
idea.
we are trying to keep our roles hidden, who we favor out of this lot, while also controlling all of them.
Thematically, these are demigods, and we are actually the children of God himself. So we are machinations of human force and effort, sometimes being visible influences, sometimes being passive ones, but either way directing the lives of all of these creatures here in the mortal plane.
Yep, and this is set up over a 3-age game.
And like any parents, we all have our favorite children. Avery. It's his son.
I love you, Danny and Reese. So we have the age here, which is the first age, and then you shuffle around and deal out an age 2 and an age 3 card. Over the course of the game, you will progress through those ages, have particular age votes that affects the demigods going on. You also have a city card that will adjust some things and give some cards and some other abilities. But over the course of each of those ages, the main mechanics that you're focusing on are moving demigods and occasionally using your god powers. And when I mean moving them to adjacent locations, but also moving them on top of quests. Some quests have to be filled in a particular order. If it shows the arrow there, they can't go here, they can't go here. They have to start off going here before the next person can go here. After that, though, there are other quests that require a certain type of class of demigod. You've kind of got your strength gods, your speed gods, and your intelligence or knowledge gods. Like agility, might, and wisdom in terms of the 3 classes or focuses that they are.
Well, and every god, and depending on the type of god they are, you'll see will match not only with the color in the card that you have, but also the icon on the quest card you're going to, the symbol around the base, and the symbol on the very bottom of the base. So if you're curious, you can always double check.
So
and if you don't want people to know what you're looking at, just grab 4 of them and look at them all at the same time.
And then just randomly pick out of your hand. So one of the nice things about this is it's a simple action-based game. An action is as simple as moving from one space to another, or moving from one space into another, and then isolating or putting on top of a quest. After that, the only other actions are god powers, but those have a particular cost associated with spending fate cards from your hand. These are, other than currency for god powers, these are also the way that you vote. Anytime somebody places a demigod on a card, you have to place a vote down. And then the reason why that's important is, if you haven't visually noticed the style of these cards, is they have 2 sides to them, 2 resolution possibilities, the feather side and the scorpion side. And when you vote, you put either a feather or a scorpion card down. That is a double feather, which is helpful if I was trying to push this vote in terms of that side of the resolution. And for every demigod, there's a vote. And then at the end, once a quest is resolved, which means everyone has been filled, then you also potentially add additional cards to it, which at 2-player is from the top of the deck because there's just 2 of us, we don't pick the other person. At 3-player and up, you actually pick someone around the table to place the extra vote down. And then you resolve it and you see what happens to each of these gods. For example, if this was the vote pile, which it wouldn't be because there wouldn't be as few as 2, you would have 2 feathers and 1 scorpion, so feathers wins, which means Pentha, she gets knocked down a point. If you're at the bottom, you just go to the back of the line. And then Apony here, she gets a point. So she would go, I think she's that one right there. She would go to the top of the line in the next Renown cycle. And then Clar, unfortunate Clar, he gets smited, which means nothing happens to him point-wise, but his character goes to the abyss, which you then have to cycle out of by going to the pools and then into the city.
Now with movement, because you're referencing that right now, every region is adjacent to the city, except for the abyss.
Yes.
The abyss is only ever adjacent to the pools, and the pools is adjacent to the city, and then every region is also adjacent to itself, except of course going from the mountains or the shoreline over into the abyss or the pools.
Yes, the only way to get here is to be smited or smote. And then also there are some god powers that allow someone to be portaled and moved somewhere else. So those are the only 2 ways here. Other than that, all of these locations are adjacent to the city and the spots next to them.
And remember, when something positive or negative happens to any one of the characters, no one knows who you are. So if someone goes to the abyss that you did or did not want there, careful about how you go, yes, or
because, and you know, and they also mention this in the rulebook, which I think is a good clarification because in one of the games I had at PAX Unplugged, this happened. We had a player who was the first time they were playing the game, and they're
hyper-focused on their color.
They're hyper-focused, and they completed an entire quest by themselves over the course of 2 turns. They filled one up on 2 spots on one turn and the last one on the other. And then we resolved the quest. But they were the only one that put votes into it.
So it was entirely positive.
So it was, like you saw very much it swung one way, and you could see that one person gained 1 point, one person gained 2, and one person didn't gain any. So we were like, oh, you're one of those 2 characters that gained points. Possibly the one that gained 2, possibly the one that gained 1. And we knew that from the beginning of the game, but you know what?
Everyone else can screw with your characters for the rest of the game then if they want.
But you know what? He won.
Yeah.
And that was what they say in the game is like, you might make a mistake early on where you give away your hand.
Yep.
But if you play it right and socially, or like, you know, if you try to, you know, misdirect people and confuse them, you can throw them off the scent to where they're like, maybe he wasn't that person. And then, so you might make a mistake, but it's okay. Just keep rolling with it because this is all about you not knowing who I am. And you know what? I would have been really bummed in that game because Clar got sent to the
Did you notice the point where you're holding up cards? I freaked the editor out because you were doing this and I referenced it directly. So there was no correct camera angle. Oh, sorry, Shira. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the god powers because you've gone through the process of going to quests, playing down cards, having a random card added in from either another player or the top of the deck that's going to simulate or at least make it so you don't have perfect information every time you flip those cards out.
Yeah.
Someone there doesn't have perfect information.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the powers that we could play by paying our cards.
So god powers are very significant when they are used. The only other unfortunate thing is that they're pricey.
Yeah.
Because these fake cards are your currency for the whole age. You draw some back at the beginning of the next age, but if you ever run out of these, and this was something I didn't realize, you always want to be either spending them or gaining them. Because if you don't spend or gain fake cards,
you pass
you rest.
Yeah.
And so that can be important because if you're trying to mess with someone and you try to move their demigod away and then you move someone into the city or something.
You just rested.
And you don't get a card, then you pass permanently for the rest of that age. And yes, you might get the first player token, but you also might not.
Yeah, these have to be manipulated in some form on your turn.
Yeah, so the god powers, they have a certain cost. We'll move from the cheapest up to the most expensive. Influence. So when you go to a quest and you place a vote down, influence allows you to place a fake card on a quest, an additional one there. Now you have to pay for it with a fake card, so it's kind of like a loss of 2 cards. But it can help you swing a vote in a particular way. If you really need a certain result or outcome rather than the other, you can force it a little bit more than natural. So that's influence. You're adding extra cards to quests. Omniscience is also neat. you allow yourself to take a card, fate card, from the deck, shuffle it into a vote pile, and then it allows you to look at it. So you can do this to assess maybe a quest card that you care about and are wondering what other people put in, or it could be one that you don't have any personal investment in, but you're just curious how people are voting with the ones on there.
I want to know what you just put into that mix in favor of Clar or against Clar. Too positive. That's going to indicate that, well, he might not like Clar very much.
I might not like Clark because he's going to get them, but I should like Clark because he's my person.
Either way.
Yes, so Smite is also at a cost of 2 fate cards. So if you pay 2 fate cards, then you move any Demi to the Abyss, and this can take people off of a quest. Typically, when they're on here, players can't move them.
Yeah,
they're locked onto the spot. But Smite and Transfiguration and Portal, which we're coming up with, are ways that you can get around that. So, oh, I thought you were going to do it a little bit more intensely. Okay, I thought you were going to do like Emperor Palpatine, but that was kind of like, just like,
I got this.
So that's Smite. Transfiguration is, what about if somebody has moved one of your demigods, or the demigod you care about, onto a bad spot, or they've moved someone that you think is theirs onto a good spot, or you're just trying to mess things up and you don't really care one way or the other, you can use Transfiguration, which is a cost 3 god power, and you're able to switch the locations of 2 demigods on the same incomplete quest. But here's the kicker, you can ignore quest requirements. So typically, Agamar here and Pintha would have to be on spots that match this strength value. But if you had a strength and a speed locked on the proper spots, you could switch them, which normally isn't allowed given their classification, but you can using Transfiguration.
The strong become fast and the
Pretty
fast
powerful.
become purple.
Exactly, the fast become purple. Sounds like something that's on Fast and Furious. And then Portal.
You come up with these things.
How do I come up with these things? Portal is another cost 3 one. It's the last god power, and it is where you move a demi to any location or open spot on a quest, and you ignore all movement rules or quest requirements. This is how you can actively take someone off of a quest and smite them. This is how you can take them from one quest all the way over to another, or it's how you can, completely isolate them from a quest and just dump them in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, all of that is valuable ways to disrupt the regular flow of gameplay. Those are all the god powers. You've got the influence, the omniscience, the smite, the transfiguration, and the portal.
You'd never smite someone with Portal.
No.
It's more expensive.
Yeah, it's more expensive, but it's a way that it's essentially it's a combination of smite and transfiguration where you can kind of really upset where people are.
Yep, but it's pricey.
It is pricey,
cool.
But there are certain scenarios in which it's valuable.
Other major things we need to go over. How do you win the game? Well, the object of the game at the end of the 3 eras or the 3 ages is going to be the person that has the pedestal the farthest up on that track. Now, anytime you gain, you'll always go to the front of the line. Anytime you drop, you'll always go to the back of the line. And after that 3rd age, you'll reveal your card and realize that you didn't win. But let's say Red had been in position, or even cycled up here a little bit farther. I would then be crowned, and I would be the queen.
Yes, you can be on the same spot, but as long as you are the one that's actively at the front of the Renown line, you win. I also love that the 2 people that we were actively messing around with happened to be the people that we were.
Let's talk through the last, update phases that we need to do. We need to go through how we resolve the age and how we resolve the city.
So the city card is always present throughout an age, and it starts with that token not on, and then as soon as somebody comes into the city for the first time, you go on just like Jesse did right there. If it's blank, nothing happens, but then anytime you move a person on, you advance it, and if there is an icon there, you apply that result to whatever demigod or player went in there. So at this point, the player who activated it would get a card, cards are very strong currency, very valuable, that's good. On this one, you would flip the fate, the coin of fate, And it was a scorpions, which means that god got smited, and they're back down into the abyss. And then over here you can have something as strong as a full point of renown for a character.
Now, the important thing to remember, it's the character that you're activating, meaning you're taking the active step to move them into the city. It does not have to be your character that's associated with that movement. Another one of those things where the rules are a little bit weird. You might be really staring at Red because Red is your secret character, but you gotta remember, everyone else is a viable tool for you to use in your machinations and your schemes.
Yep, 100%. And so the city card is there and is active as long as you are pushing people through. Once you get to the end, it doesn't reset or anything. That's the most amount of resources and effects that can be activated.
Yep.
The age card, there's 3 of them across the 3 ages, and at that point, you have a vote at the end of the game, and there's going to be a result for scorpions, there's going to be a result for feather, and there's going to be a result for whether there's a tie. And it's at the end of the age, and typically it starts to the left of first player. And when you go to a regular quest, you only put 1 card in, typically, unless you use an ability or something that overrides that. But in the age vote, you can put as many as you want if you really desire it. So I'm going to put a full 2 cards into that vote, and then we'll see what happens. We have a lot of feathers. So, Demis at 1 to 2 renown, gain a renown. So, unfortunately, there's no one here, but all 3 of these people are here, so you actually activate it.
So they keep the order that they have.
I can't remember. I actually think I did that wrong. I think you're supposed to move it from the front of the line first, and then it changes. But I'll double check that.
Check the rule book on that before you play yourself, because we're not going to. I mean, we could. Do you want to check that?
Yeah, I'll check it right now. Yeah.
While you do that, you have the rule book. I can't even read flavor text. I'm going to tell you about our sponsor of today's video. That's going to be sugar-free Red Bull. When you need to keep up or get yourself a pair of wings, I think they're still using that slogan, right? They only got sued once for that. Red Bull. It gives you wings. Oh, man, I can't believe they pay me to drink this shit.
You're a mess.
Have you found it yet?
All renown given or taken from is scored from first to last place. Yeah, so from first to last place. So you would change the order.
So from first to last place, 1, 2, 3. So it actually switches the order in the process.
Switches the order,
You did it wrong.
No,
You
and then I
thought
corrected
it.
it.
You did it wrong.
But I corrected it.
Well, yes. After a very good sponsor interlude. Great transition. Anything else we need to go over here?
Yeah, it's, you know, the style of play will probably evolve differently based off of whether you have a low or a high player count.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different things to consider. At a low player count, you can use a lot of other demigods with a decent, like, odds of not affecting the player's actual demigod. If you're if you're giving someone points, you don't want it to be the other person's demigod. At a lower player count, that's more likely that you're safe. At a higher player count, anybody you activate could likely be another person's demigod.
Yeah.
Which means you have to be a lot more careful. So I think that this is going to play very interestingly at different player counts and satisfy a lot of different kind of itches for people who like social deduction games, but maybe want a little bit more meaty of an experience rather than some of the lighter ones that are typically kind of more party games.
Cool. So there you have it. It's how to play Veiled Fate. Remember, say it with me now.
I wasn't paying attention to you.
Paid a lot for this. Red Bull.
We were paid?
It gives you wings.
We were paid?
It doesn't really give you wings, though. It's ridiculous.
Also, it doesn't taste great.
I actually don't mind the flavor.
But it doesn't give you wings. We were paid?
No. No, but a man can dream.